Who says we can't do something different? Because this episode, we got amazing guests, and you're not going to hear Chris very much, which is really trying something new. Because we're talking movies, we're talking the Blood in the Soul Festival with all their programmers. Yay!
Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of How'd You Like That Movie? We have a very, very special episode finishing out our Hot Ghouls of Halloween. So we figured we'd actually get some plural ghouls on the show. We have a big proportion of the selection committee for the Canadian Blood in the Snow Genre Film Festival on today. So we're just going to kick right into that. I'm not even going to kick you over to Scott. We're going to go right into the show. Everybody, thank you so much for coming out on a Sunday morning. So I think the best thing to do is just get yourselves introduced. And so we're going to kick off right away with what we like to call shameless self-promotion. All right. So let's start with, it's Carolyn or Caroline?
Carolyn, yeah.
All right, give us the stuff.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Mauricette, and I'm one of the programmers for Blood in the Snow Film Festival. I also run the development lab that runs alongside Blood in the Snow, and it's for underrepresented filmmakers. So we've got actually a really great selection this year. I'm really excited for them to be announced. And I love cats.
All right, fantastic. Kassy?
Yeah. My name's Kassy Gascho. I'm also a programmer at Blood in the Snow Film Festival. It's my first year as a programmer here. And I'm also a filmmaker. My latest short called Boss Babe has been doing its festival runs pretty recently. And I also love cats.
All right. Oh, Melanie, your image is less spooky.
Yes, I opened up more drapes. So yeah, and I'm Melanie Turner, and I am one of the programmers for Blood in the Snow. I've been with the festival since its inception, some 12 years ago, I believe now. When Kelly had started it as it was called Fright Nights. He would do it once a month. And then he approached me to when he was thinking about doing a festival. And so I've been on board since the beginning, and I love cats as well.
Okay, Heidy, are we going 4 for 4 with the love of cats across the board here?
Hi, everyone. I'm Heidy Morales. I'm one of the programmers with BITS as well. This is my second year with the group, but I've been following the festival for a very long time as well. Shameless self-promotion. I do publish a website where I do write about arts and culture in the city of Toronto, but also elsewhere. It's Heights Musings, and I'll give you the link later on. I love cats, but I also love dogs.
I love it. Scott, you want to tell me if you love cats? Because I feel like I don't know.
I was going to say, like, if I say no, I feel like I'm going to be
we
kicked
just
off
actually
this
delete
pod.
you from the show. Like, you're
That's be like, that's it. That's done. But awesome.
I like turtles.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us.
Yeah. So, Scott, why don't you jump in here and chat for a bit? Because otherwise, I'll just take over the show.
Well, all right. I guess we can just ask like generalized questions. Why horror? Like, what attracted you guys to horror? And I'm assuming watching very good horror movies with this Blood in the Soul, and also very bad horror movies probably that gets submitted. What, like, in terms of the genre, why this one?
Tell me why. Ain't nothing but a heartache. Tell me why.
Well, I was raised on it. So I'm actually named after Carolyn Stoddard from that soap opera Dark Shadows. That was my mom's favorite soap. She had the biggest crush on Barnabas, the the vampire. So yeah, like I grew up on it, like just like, you know, stories like the boogeyman stories and stuff like that my parents used to tell me. So I think it's just kind of ingrained in my kind of background. So yeah, and I just I think for me, as being a programmer, it's just a treat to watch what people create, good, bad, whatever. Some people need to work on their skills, but I always say to myself, well, even though this didn't come off well, I'm not the one making the movie. There are people out there putting themselves out to make a film and putting their own money out there. So yeah, I just enjoy them all. I enjoyed it all. So good, bad, ugly, whatever.
Speaking of dark shadows, I don't know why I can't get my camera to work better here. I have all the lights on. I have the windows open. There's sun coming in. You wouldn't believe it, but yeah. For me, I think, as with Carolyn, I kind of grew up with it as well. Like some of my favorite memories are staying up late with my dad and watching horror movies on TV. And it was always just kind of the, I guess, the safe thrill. Like it is thrilling. You're like watching them. You're like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? But you kind of get to experience that through the characters, but at the same time, you're safe. So I think there was always that. It's just like a little bit of an adrenaline rush at points watching some horror movies. But then there's other ones that are, it depends on the genre, because there are some that are fun. But I think that's why I initially really liked it. It's fond memories with my dad growing up watching, because he liked them as much as I did. So, and then now I have the joy of working with a festival where I get to watch as, like all these different, filmmakers submitting their films for, us to like, there's some that are never watched by anybody else, but we get to have that opportunity and that privilege. So
either Heidi or Kassy, you jump on that question, or both of you? Actually, both of you would be great, just not at the same time.
Yeah, I guess I can go. I love horror because I find that it's kind of like going to a movie theater and watching like a horror film is just such an experience. It gives like you as an audience member such a fun experience with other film goers. And I also find that as a filmmaker and as a programmer, there's so much space in the genre for like creativity and innovation as filmmakers, and getting to watch those films like so early on, like that, yeah, like maybe no one else has seen. You get to really see like emerging talent and emerging styles in filmmakers. And I find that, yeah, like horror is definitely a genre where you can be really open with different styles and different like elements. Yeah.
Heidi?
So I'm going to echo what everyone else already said, but I also think that I'm from Latin American culture, so we already have a lot of stories that we hear growing up in terms of scary stories. And I think that's kind of the cool part about either programming for a festival that is genre or just watching genre films, that the voices are very diverse already. There's a lot of things that we can explore. And I think in Canada, we're seeing a really great group of filmmakers coming up. And I think that's the exciting part of being part of this sort of programming, in that we're getting sneak peeks, if you will, in terms of what's coming up in Canadian genre. So it's a very exciting time for us, I think.
So yeah, I mean, I think we should probably definitely talk right now about the film festival, because people are like, who are these people and why are they important and what is this thing they keep referencing? So who wants to walk us through? Like, I'm a big fan of Blood in the Snow. I went last year. I'm actually going to be there again this year for the Deadly Exposure, which I'm going to talk about later, because I think it is by far the best for industry people trying to get in or already in the industry. It is one of the best values as far as networking, like hands down. And I include TIFF in that as well. But I want to talk about that later. But so who wants to actually just like walk us through what is Blood in the Snow and why does it matter? And actually, I would like to know where you guys feel Blood in the Snow fits into the Canadian landscape and if you can, even the global landscape, because I know some of you work with Fantasia, which is a very, very prestigious film festival, and so kind of seeing where Blood in the Snow lines up with it. And yeah, so where is Blood in the Snow and what's its place in the world? So who wants to do that?
I think Carolyn might be the best to start discussing that, because she does a lot of the workshops. So
Well,
Carolyn,
funny.
do you want to take it?
I was gonna say you, because you've been with the festival longest, but maybe
you can
we
both
can
talk.
kind of,
You can both
yeah,
talk.
I was say I like the
we can
top
both say
potato.
something, but I just figured like
Yeah.
you can start with the what we're doing now, and then I can go through the history of the festival after.
Okay,
for sure.
sounds good. Okay, so what we're doing now, as you mentioned, like deadly exposure, that's a huge component because Kelly Micheal Stewart, the festival director, he is also a filmmaker producer, so he knows that side of the business. He's been through it. His film Late Night Double Feature did the festival rounds. He has like kind of stories in the trenches, which before I started working with the festival, I actually was covering the festival just for like, I started out as a blogger. And I remember going to their premiere, Kelly's premiere, and the Q&A after, just the way he was talking about it and the passion that he had for filmmaking. So it comes from a place of experience where he's like, well, I want to, help other filmmakers with the nuts and bolts of the business. So that's where deadly exposure came up. And I think it really started to gain momentum because people were like, wow, like as you were saying, we can network, we can meet industry insiders, industry professionals who can help us, guide us with our trajectory of the film that we want to make, or just gain insight. So I think it was a really important aspect, because I know he started I think I'm trying to think. I was just looking through all the years, and I think it was 2015. I think I was still writing as a film critic, and I went to makeup effects panel that they had. It was one of the first, I think it was the first year they did deadly exposure, and I'm like, this is so cool, seeing this up close, because I was a long time ago, I was a makeup artist. He used to go to industry things, and like you would see it, but just seeing it within a film festival environment, I thought that was really cool, because that
It's very
shows,
unique.
yeah, it's unique, and it shows the detail that you're looking at. Like, someone who's, I want to make a short film, and you got to think about, oh, well, I need makeup, I need lights, whatever. That's where you get all the information and the education. So I think deadly exposure has really grown in that aspect. And then we've added the horror development lab, because basically there aren't enough BIPOC people creating horror. So that was kind of a brainchild between Kelly and I, where I'm like, well, I need to see more people like me. My background's from the West Indies, and like Heidi, I grew up with like folklore. Like, basically horror is part of our lives. Like, you don't do this because this will happen to you in a supernatural environment, right? So, and it's just like ingrained in me. So I want to see that reflected in horror as well. So that's why the lab was created. So it's for BIPOC, women, and disabled creators, for film and TV projects, to kind of get them to the next step. So that, because there's a lot of access barriers and stuff like that for, people who want to make horror. And there's also a bias, I've noticed, with trying to get funding or respect, because there's like, I'm sorry, I'm rambling, but there's like, you see horror films like, I don't know, James Wan, and they're making tons of money. And so you're a filmmaker, you want to reach that level, but the in-between is really kind of murky and hard to get through. So that's why the lab was created. So anyway, sorry, go ahead, Mel.
Actually, sorry, before Melanie, before you jump in, do you think that that's because, like, for example, if you go to any of the grant, bodies, especially arts, on the art side, and you've got a drama, it could be like almost like the worst written drama, but it's drama, it's respectable, it's appropriate, there's some monies there. But you go in with this social commentary, but it has a bunch of chainsaws in it, and they're just like, oh, we're not touching that. Or even telefilm and stuff like that. You can end up in this situation where they're like, it could probably make, $100 million, but they're just like, yeah, we don't want to put the government's logo on decapitation.
That's exactly it. Like, there's a real hard bias against it. And like, there's some funders who say like, we don't fund horror, but then you see like they're funding a TV series that is a horror slasher based TV series. You're like, what? But yeah, there is that respectability thing where it's not it's just not considered.
How rude.
And it's infuriating, because you're creating film, you're creating something that is definitely going to get eyeballs on it. And also, like, I think they underestimate the audience, you know, especially with social commentary within horror. Like there's this isn't a Canadian film, but there's one that sticks in my head because I also program for Fantasia. And there's one called Huesera, and it's a Mexican horror about a woman and the fears of childbirth. And you know, that is a huge commentary on women and whether you want to have children or not. And even like Level 16, we played a film by Danishka Harskas. Oh my God. Hey, can you cut this out? Cut this out. Mel, how do you pronounce her last name again? Danishka. Oh my God. Anyway, okay, just cut that out. I'm gonna try that again. There's also okay, let me count myself in. 2, 3, 1. There's also a film called Level 16 where it talks about like girls and the lack of power, and that's a Canadian film. I remember can't remember what year it was, but it was like a sold out screening at Bits. So there is like a lot of commentary within horror that people don't see. It's just like this kind of surface level, like, oh, someone's getting murdered, well, we can't support that, you know. My long-winded answer.
No, I think that's great. And I mean, we'll probably circle back to that about like money and funding and stuff like that. Cause I mean, anybody who's trying to make movies, that's usually the number one thing. That's like all the panels. And if you were just to be like, so who here just is trying to get money? And like the entire audience puts their hand up, right? So, Melanie, do you want to just like walk us through the history of Blood in the Snow and where you feel it sits in the Canadian film festival ecosystem and globally, if you can?
Sure. I'm just trying to remember years because, as I mentioned earlier, I think it started out initially with Kelly doing Fright Nights once a month at the there was a theater. Oh my goodness, what is the name of the theater now?
Was it the projection booth?
That's it. Sorry. Yeah, out on Pape. And so he would do that once a month. And then we were sitting down talking one day, and he was like, you know, I was thinking of doing this festival of just Canadian genre films, Canadian horror. And would you be interested in kind of coming on board with that? And I was like, that sounds like a really interesting project. So that was, as I mentioned before, I believe 12 years ago. And so, yeah, so we've been, as I mentioned, I've been part of the festival ever since. I've worked in various roles, but it's definitely been really interesting to see it grow throughout the years, because it just started as a few days, and now, you know, we've been expanding, and then also putting in the workshops as well. So it's just been a pleasure seeing how it's evolved over the years. Now I'm trying to think of, as opposed to Carolyn, I'm like trying to blank on what to say.
So I know that, so Toronto, I think Toronto After Dark is going on right now.
It is. Yeah, I was there last night.
Do any of you work on that film festival as well, or do you just attend as like horror fanatics?
I've been attending it since its inception as well. So I've been going to that festival for about 17 years. And that's actually where I met Kelly, was at Toronto After Dark. So yeah, I'm a big supporter of that festival as well.
So would you say that the difference between the two is Blood in the Snow is 100%, it's a Canadian film festival?
It's Canadian.
Like it's not considered international at all?
No. There are some international films that play, but they have to have a Canadian aspect to them. Whether it be the director, I mean, because a lot of Canadians move down to LA, so there has to have a Canadian component to it. And with Toronto After Dark, that's, you know, international. Anyone can apply, but for us, we have, you know, we want to keep it Canadian, so that's where it kind of separates the two. Yeah. So.
And compared to Fantasia, what would you say the like level is? Obviously, Fantasia is an international festival similar to Toronto After Dark. But do you think that, I don't want to say quality, I think that's the wrong term to use, but like, do you see films that are, I guess, is Blood in the Snow a feeder festival? Yeah, is Blood in the Snow a feeder festival for Fantasia, or is it the way the schedule where it works out that they're kind of just very separate entities?
Well, I've been programming for Fantasia for it'll be next year. I just finished my second year there. So what I honestly I feel like they kind of kind of parallel and kind of intersect, and it's just a very strange I guess relationship, because there's a lot of films that I personally think, oh, this is probably not for Fantasia. It's definitely for Blood and Snow. And the same for Blood in the Snow. Like, it's so strange because they have their different vibes. That's what I've learned. Like, they're just, and not to say that something that would play for sure at Blood in the Snow wouldn't play at Fantasia. I just feel that because Fantasia has been around for 27 years
20,
now, 27.
28,
I
27,
think it's going to 27, I think. Yeah, because this is their 26. So because it's such a grand scale, it's just different because there's more room for experimental, there's more room for like kind of I don't even know how to put it into words. It's just there's a slightly different I guess what's the word I'm looking
Like, is it more avant-garde, or it can be more avant-garde?
Yeah, it can be. Yeah, it can be with Fantasia. Yeah. And there's a bit more wiggle room with that. Whereas and it's not because like the programmers at Bits don't like it. I think it's just the audiences are slightly different, even though a lot of Toronto people go to Fantasia.
Mhm.
I mean, Kassy, what would you say? Like, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I would say with like Fantasia, there's a lot like there's it's like the definition of genre, I think, is a little bit different. There's more like, yeah, more experimental, like avant-garde pieces, I would find. And the audience is more, it's like broadened from like direct horror audiences, I think. I think Blood in the Snow leans more towards like horror, more strictly that, even though there's still obviously wiggle room in both, but I find that Fantasia will take will go like a more dark comedy or more like wacky type of things. I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what I've noticed in like the programming.
So have all of you programmed or gone to Fantasia? And by gone to, I don't mean as attendants, but like as filmmakers, like, no?
Well, I used to live in Montreal, so I used to go to Fantasia when I lived there, but just as an audience member. So.
And so again, would you both of you guys have both, sorry, it's Melanie and Heidy. Have you both attended? You have both attended Fantasia though, because the question I want to ask is, do you agree kind of with your colleagues that of like the expanded definition of genre that kind of exists there, like, or do you have some different insight of what you feel is different between Blood in the Snow and Fantasia? And the reason I'm talking about Fantasia so much is it is a world famous festival, right? So our audience, it's I'm not trying to not talk about Blood in the Snow. It's just that I know that most of our audience definitely have heard of Fantasia, and I want to try and make those parallels. So
absolutely. I mean, I haven't been to Fantasia in the last few years, but like I said, when I lived in Montreal, I used to attend Fantasia, but that's also over 20 years ago. So I'm sure that the festival has evolved since then as well. So I might not be the best person to speak on that, but I did enjoy going because it was a place where you could only see those films. So that was what attracted me to the festival, is that it wasn't something that you're going to go to Cineplex and you can choose a time to go and see it. Like I think that's what attracted me as well to Toronto After Dark, and then to our festival, is that this is the only place where you'll be able to see those movies. So and they're usually very unique movies. So that's what I was initially going to Fantasia for. So
I'll be quick here. I'm mindful of time, but I'm the odd one out here. I haven't been to Fantasia. I am very familiar with the festival because I do have friends that go as programmers, as fans, as producers. So I feel like I do have a bit of intimate knowledge through my community, but I do see a difference in the sense of the audiences, like Carolyn and everyone else has already kind of mentioned, that I started out as an audience member at BITS, at Blood in the Snow. So I totally know what we're talking about when we say there's a vibe to each festival. And that's kind of the same across different festivals in the city of Toronto alone, right? So you kind of get to know the people that are coming, and we know when we can test the limits based on the type of films that we're getting submitted to the festival.
So actually, let's just stay on you, Heidi. So what would you say the vibe of BITS is? And then I want to talk a bit, and I'm going to ask that same question is going to go across the board. And then I actually want to talk about your experience as a programmer. You know, how long have you been doing it? What are the good things that you've seen? What are the like kind of, and not worst films, but like what are the pitfalls you see in submissions, right? Like what does a successful submission often look like? What is a not successful and kind of eye roll? So yeah, let's kick off with that. What do you think? Say the vibe. So if our audience, if they're thinking about checking out Blood in the Snow, who is that person? What is, like I said, yeah, what is that scene?
No pressure, and of course, it's my opinion. So I think the vibe is very diverse, age group wise, culture wise. You're an open-minded person who just loves horror, but are willing to sort of see other things like fun horror, like comedy, you know, or some satire, with a little bit of sci-fi in there. So I think we're not catering to every single fandom, but definitely our core vibe is people who love genre in general. And I think in terms of what we're seeing is that, you know, people are pushing those boundaries within horror, and that I'm going now into the submissions that we're seeing, like you were asking, Chris. And I think what gets us excited is when we're seeing a really great story that gives us those elements of genre that we're looking for. And we can totally kind of turn to each other if we're speaking online or in person. And we're like, yeah, this is like, the audience is really going to have a good time with this film, right? That's sort of when we know we have something really good. In terms of, I don't think we eye roll at submissions, to be honest. I think we're always looking to see how can we give you some feedback so that the next round, you know, can be fruitful. So for example, sometimes we're getting films that are really, really long, and when it comes to film festival programming, we're sort of bound by time because we need to do quick turnarounds between films. And we also have only so many days that we can program films for, right? So I think that's also where we may have, maybe I love one film, but it's 2 hours. And we also want to be showing a short film before that feature film. So we're not able to sort of include everything that we see. So length might be one thing. Other times just the editing, you know, continuation kind of questions that we might have, or logic within plot.
So you guys do notes? Like you actually give people notes on submissions?
Yeah.
That's fantastic. As a filmmaker, and when you throw your product out into the world, and then you just get a no.
You suck, you jackass.
Or even a yes. Sometimes like a yes, you're just like, I would actually like to know what you liked about the film, because that is also important. You know what I mean?
Well, and I think that, you know, for everyone who makes a film, it's a passion project. They work very hard, you know, on getting the film actually finished. So if there are, you know, issues with, as Heidi said, with length, and that's, you know, right away that could, you know, cause them to not be accepted to festivals because of the length. Because as you know, for a lot of festivals, they do like a short before, then, you know, they do the intro, the short, the film, and then a Q&A after. So if you don't have time to do that, that could be a hindrance for your film being accepted. Also, you know, it's just giving feedback, because we have seen so many films. I mean, just think of just this year alone, how many films we've seen. So we can give some feedback on how a film can be improved if there is, you know, different ways to improve it. So I think feedback is essential. if we're not accepting a film. It's essential to let someone know, well, we liked your film, but this was an issue with it. And, you know, a lot of times it can be length.
It's not right.
You know, with shorts, if they're too long, because we have to think about how many, you know, our time constraints on being able to show all these shorts. And if it's, you know, a short is, it's usually, I think, I don't know if everyone else will agree with me, but the best length for a short is like 15 minutes at the high end, maybe 10 minutes and below. But when you have a short coming in that's 25 minutes, it might be more difficult to program because we can't necessarily program that before a movie. So it would have to go into shorts program. And then sometimes it's a decision of, you know, do we play this one short that we like that's 25 minutes or these two shorts that we like that are 10 minutes each? And chances are we're going to go for be able to give, you know, exposure to the two shorts that are 10 minutes each. So there's a lot of consideration that goes into, you know, when we're kind of getting down to the final cut and who we're going to program. So that's usually one of the suggestions is length. You know, keep it short and concise. You know, so.
And what would you say the vibe of Blood in the Snow is?
Oh my goodness. Very inclusive, very warm, very welcoming. We, you know, I think that most people are very approachable in our film festival. If anyone has any questions, I think that that's one of my most important things is that everybody feels welcome there. That there's no like cool kids club or, you know, that, you know, whoever you are, if you are there for a film festival, we all share a common interest. And, you know, it's such a diverse crowd as well. But, you know, I think I like Carolyn's story of when she first met me. And
Yeah, I was just gonna jump in and say that I remember, I will never forget this. Like, it was that when Bits was still at the Carlton, and I was just kind of there. One thing, everybody talked to me in the lineup. Like that was the nicest thing. Everybody was chatty and like, oh hey, you know, blah blah blah, you know, what movies do you like? And it just became like this really lovely, like warm community. Like everybody, you know, when I picked up my pass, whatever. I remember first time I talked to Kelly, he was at I think Bits had a table at Horrorama, and I was like, oh my god, Blood in the Snow selling passes. And like a nerd, I'm like, I gotta get my pass. I run up to the table. I'm like, oh my, can I get my pass, please? And Kelly kind of looked at me like, who the hell is it? And I was like so excited. I'm like, oh, I'm so excited for this film fest. I think he looked a little surprised because I was so enthusiastic. So then I go to the film festival and I'm just kind of milling around. And I remember Melanie's like, hey, you come with us to the pub after. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, come sit with us. And if you've never heard Melanie's laugh, it is the most infectious laugh like I've ever heard in my life. It just kind of grabs you and pulls you in. It's like you're having a good time. And I'll never forget that. Melanie was so lovely to me. And I was like, who's this woman? She's so nice. And it's been it's a love affair ever since. So
yeah. Oh, you're gonna make me cry.
That's a fantastic story, and I mean it seems to you. And don't worry, Kassy, I didn't forget about you. While we're still on Carolyn though, so what are you just agreeing with your colleagues about like kind of like what kind of films get in, what don't?
They all covered it so well because the synapse is not firing this morning. But yeah, like they covered exactly it. And I would also say it's a filmmakers festival because of that, you know, because there's the feedback, because Kelly doesn't want you to like go off into the void. I know a filmmaker who he was like, I don't know why I'm not getting into film festivals. They're just rejecting me. So I think it's really valuable that we do give, and Kelly insists on our feedback. He's like, you give me your feedback. If you don't give a feedback on a film, he will email you and say, why did you score this film this way? And so you'll be like, oh, like he makes you, so you can't get away with it. But
there's no like everybody's getting a 7.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like he's like, why? And if you didn't like something, tell me what. And my pet peeve is sound.
Yes.
Oh my God. I'm like, is it my TV? Am I losing my hearing? Like, what is I
Volume
turn it
up,
up, I turn
volume
it down.
down.
Yeah,
Volume up, volume
exactly.
down.
You just mic your actors properly. You get, you
Yeah.
know, just make sure you get like you get your sound down, because that is like a major killer for films. So yeah,
A lot of other things you can fix, but sound you cannot.
you can.
If it's not done properly on set, you know, that's pretty hard to fix afterwards. So yeah, sound is very important.
I just got a message from our producer. You just like warmed his little heart. It's like, see what I do matters around here. What we do matters.
Absolutely.
Is Kassy the only filmmaker in this group?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's perfect in the sense, because my question is, so I want you to answer the same body of questions, but you're coming at this from as a programmer. You're actually, you've been where the sausage is made. You've made the sausage. So do you find that gives you a different perspective? And if so, what is that perspective, do you think? Like, are you more gracious or are you harder because of it?
I guess it goes both ways. I think that making a movie in itself is a miracle. Like, if you're able to finish making a movie, it's just amazing because it's so hard. So I look at every film like with that. But also I also am critical in the sense of certain things like sound and length and stuff like that. Like, as a filmmaker, those are things that I've always paid attention to. So it doesn't stop me from being critical, but it makes me really, really appreciate like all the films coming in, because just making it in itself, and as a filmmaker, you're still submitting to festivals is so like bad on the wallet, like so expensive, everything. So you're just really appreciating that filmmaker put like the time into making the film and the money into submitting to us. So it makes me like really like put everything into like watching every film and giving it like my all in terms of like notes and just my all of my attention. But yeah, I guess also coming at it as a filmmaker, that was kind of my introduction to bits. I was programmed here a few years ago, so it was very much the thing I loved about bits was it being a filmmakers festival. It's so lonely kind of navigating the festival world as a filmmaker, and even like when you get into bits, Kelly will have a meeting with all the filmmakers. He'll do like a little video call and stuff like that to introduce them to the festival and how it works and everything. And I remember like being so appreciative of like those things that he does to make sure that the filmmakers feel like cared and supported for throughout, and kind of giving them access to this like amazing community.
And there's a lot of social aspects of it as well. A lot of like the filmmaker, you know, the different get-togethers so that filmmakers can meet each other. And we've had actually filmmakers meet at our festival and then go off to do projects together. So it's really good for networking. It's been, a lot of filmmakers have told us that they've I remember, I think even Nadine, who's another one of our programmers, said, and I hope I'm quoting her correctly, but she said that it was interesting coming to Blood in the Snow, because then she met filmmakers from Vancouver who she hadn't met before. Like, she's from Victoria, Vancouver. And she came all the way out here because she said, I believe at the time she was like, there wasn't necessarily a really big community, or the community wasn't, they weren't knowledgeable of each other. And then coming to Blood in the Snow, she met other filmmakers from Vancouver. So sorry, I have been at Toronto After Dark, so my synapses are not really it was a late night last night, so words are hard.
Can I add on to what Mel was mentioning, is that the lab last year, the Vancouver participants, they've actually gotten together and they're doing an anthology. So they're working on that. And I was like, my lab babies, they're working together. And like, that honestly makes me very emotional, because especially with the lab, because I'm like, I want to do this thing. It's like, I guess Kassy, I wonder if it's like making a film, like, I want to do this thing and we're going to do this thing, and I don't know how we're gonna do this thing. Then we did the thing.
You did the thing.
Yeah, and it's like kind of, yeah, it's funny. It was just a conversation between Kelly and I, and it's become this thing. And like they're like
A big thing.
multiplying. It's like a virus.
There's other things.
There's other things.
It's a
We're
big
like
thing.
we're spreading. And I think that's the great thing about Blood in the Snow, is that it really encourages people to put themselves out there, and we actually have we will give them the support as much as we can, like feedback, networking, the lab. So yeah, I guess, yeah.
A lot of times I will send people Kelly's way. I'm like, if you need further information on this, or how you want to get a film made or whatever, I always suggest go to Kelly, go and talk to him, because he's made films, he's watched film, he's done it all. So
I just wanted to ask, like, not in terms of the filmmaker, but like general audience. So I go on your website, I'm buying passes, dressed up in my Halloween gear. What is it like as an attendee going? Am I buying tickets and I'm just picking and choosing which films to watch, or is it just a set block hours for the people that don't know? If you guys want to let us know on that.
I think it depends, right? If you're sort of new, I was gonna say the size of the festival is has increased, but it's still pretty manageable in terms of days and variety. So if you're more of an early person, come to our matinees on the weekend, let's say. You can buy passes just like any other festival, that if you want to have a block, like, you want to book, the 23rd to the 25th of November this year, and you want to come to see all these different films, buy your passes in advance. We do sell out kind of early. But if you're still curious and you're not know, I would say go to the website bloodinthesnow.ca and kind of go through the programming and kind of look at the description of the films. We also do the write-up ourselves, so we try to kind of get you enticed, with a little bit of tidbits about the films that we're programming if they're feature. I think if people are not sure, I always recommend the shorts program, because there's a lot of really great talent in short films, and it really is hard to make a short film. So I think you're making the filmmakers really happy. I see Kassy nodding, so maybe you can add something.
Yeah, I love the shorts program. Like, as an attendee, that was always what I would like try to go see. I just love the programming with the shorts at Bits. You get to see things that you won't see anywhere else, especially with short films. You're not sure if you're going to see them anywhere else. And I love that the curation of it, the Funny Frights program, Dark Visions, and the Mediums program, like all of them have space for like such a different level of like shorts, like different types of shorts. I do love shorts.
Just want to add to the Mournful Mediums. I think this is one of the few festivals that actually will program something that is slightly over a typical shorts length. So, and I think that was a really brilliant idea with Kelly, because we were like, wow, this is an incredible short, but it's like 19 minutes. And so he was like, I believe that was over the pandemic, where we had a longer shorts, because it was being shown on Super Channel, who is still one of our sponsors. And so he's like, well, let's do like a longer shorts program, and he called it Mournful Mediums, which I thought was brilliant, right? So that's another thing where you see like this filmmaker who is kind of like ready to do a feature, but they're kind of doing a longer short. So I think that's really unique with our programming.
Oh, also Emerging Screams is also a really cool part of the programming, like spotlighting student filmmakers and people who are at early stages in their career, because then it's really cool to see like their career like progress afterwards.
So like I said, I was at Blood in the Snow last year, and on the industry side, and so we ended up drinking a lot right after the block of like guests and panels and stuff. And so I didn't actually make it to any of the after parties, because like by 9 o'clock, like all the filmmakers that we were with were already like wasted. Like I think a couple of them actually fell asleep during a screening. Like it was bedlam.
'Cause suicide is painless. It brings on many changes.
But there is a social component after the screenings, correct? Like
Yeah.
there is after
Yeah.
parties. And since I did not make it to any of those, can you guys like let our audience know of like what actually happens when the filmmakers are not sleeping by 9 o'clock?
Well, we have the after parties at the Transat Club, which is a short walk from the venue, which is the Isabel Bader Theater on Charles Street. And yeah, every night after the films, there are after parties. I think obviously the biggest one is the closing night party. Usually it is packed to the rafters with people, which is interesting because I'm thinking I have pictures of the first year after like Kelly and I finished the film festival, and I look at him, I'm like, want to go for a beer? And he's like, yeah. And so we went for a beer, and I think there was like maybe like 8 to 10 of us at this pub across the street. And then a couple of years later, there was hundreds of people at the after party. So it's been interesting to see it grow from that, like, oh, we're finished. All right, let's go for a beer, to now like they're actually organized after parties. And yeah, so those are the closing night one is definitely the best, because I think like at that point we can relax, like everything has been done. Everything is over, and now we can really kind of let loose, because during the festival there's still other things that you are responsible for and you have to take care of. So it's while people are enjoying the festival, there's always stuff going on in the background as well to make sure that it's running smoothly. So but yeah, I mean it's certainly a great idea to attend the after parties, because they are, again, social networking events as well, so where you can meet people and talk to people in a very casual environment. So I definitely suggest them if you can stay up after 9 o'clock. But I totally hear you. Like my bedtime now is like, what, 9:30? What, it's 7 o'clock? I'm not going out now, it's too late. When I was younger, I didn't go out until like 12 or 1. I was getting ready at 11, but now it's like, oh no.
And so are those ticketed events? Or
No.
do you actually then have to have a festival pass or ticket, or
No,
how does
the
that
after
work?
parties, no, everybody's welcome. So yeah, it's not it's at a pub. It's, like I said, it's very casual, it's very relaxed. Come enjoy, talk to people, and I mean, if there's we can always help too. If there's people that you want to be introduced to, we can always help with that as well. So yeah.
So go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. No, it's fine.
I was just gonna say, I'm always happy to make introductions. So if it helps and it kind of breaks the ice for someone, because some people might be a bit socially shy and not comfortable going up to someone, and I don't have that problem at all. Go talk to anyone. So yeah.
It's one of the things I'm kind of picking up from you guys or you people.
What do you mean, you people?
Is that, compared to say like TIFF, like the vibe as far as like the interpersonal interactions seems like much chiller with Blood and Snow. And I get like TIFF is TIFF and your genre and your different festival, but like you go to TIFF and everything's either like pretentious pay to play, or you're just not getting into it. Like it's like if you're not Brad Pitt, you're not going to that thing. That's it. Like doesn't matter. And it's with you guys, it's like, come have fun. Whether you're a filmmaker, whether you're the audience member, whether you're just like, it sounds like if you're just like a hangabout, like just like come on down. And
Absolutely.
I think it's so awesome, because I agree with Kassy, because I'm also a filmmaker. Like it's a tough go, and you sometimes almost have to remind yourself you don't have to be in competition with people all the time.
No.
And again, I think TIFF is an example of the type of film where it's like, if you're there, like you're fighting for a distributor, or you're fighting for and I'm not suggesting you're not doing that at Blood and Snow, but it's kind of nice to hear that there's a place you can go where, yeah, you can do the networking, you can get distribution, you can do that, but you can also actually have fun. Like this is an art, like we're supposed to enjoy what we're doing.
Well, I always said that this is my second job and this is my fun job. So I have my serious job that, pays the bills, and, and then I have this job, and I love working for Blood in the Snow, or I wouldn't be doing it. But it's a lot of fun. I do it, I mean, there's a lot of work involved, but there's also a lot of enjoyment. I do this for enjoyment, for fun. And I'm grateful that I've been part of the festival since, the beginning, and that I'm still part of it, because it's just such a great festival, and I'm proud to be part of it as well because of its inclusivity and just the feedback I get from people, just saying that they always feel welcome there. They and they don't feel intimidated, because I think sometimes at festivals people might feel a bit intimidated, and they don't feel that way with our festival. So I don't want people to feel intimidated. Come up and talk to me, and if there's anything I can do to help, I will be happy to help.
Well, I was gonna say, you guys' enthusiasm about this is super infectious. Like, I'm smiling just listening, because I'm like, like, it's amazing, right?
Yeah.
Tell Kelly.
I have to say, it breaks my heart to send rejection letters to the lab participants who didn't make it. And the thing is, it's not like by a huge margin. It's like there's just like where you have to go down to scores. Like you're like, okay, between this and this, you have to go down by scores and like what the jury's saying, and then having to like email them. And it just like, to me, that like, I know it's just a part of the thing, right? It's part of the game. You apply to something, you could make it, you could not. But just to me, it just breaks my heart. And I have to send them, like, when I send them that email, I'm like, it doesn't mean you're a terrible filmmaker. Like, I feel like I'm their auntie. I'm like, it's okay, here's some ice cream. But like,
Well,
it
there's
breaks
a lot
my
of competition too, though, Carolyn,
Yeah.
and
yeah.
so unfortunately, not everyone's gonna to make it in. Even
Yeah.
I mean, gosh, even this year, I'm thinking about how hard it was. There was like a lot of films that had very high scores. Oh,
Yeah.
did I get light if I just put my hand here?
No, ooh, look at that. She's an angel now. But I also want to make them feel like you're not a piece of garbage if you don't get in. Because I know
Yeah.
people beat themselves up, especially creators. I mean, I'm a writer. I write something, I'm like, does that make sense? Is this garbage? You always second guess yourself. And when you get rejected from something, that is like a
It's
huge
deflating.
blow. Yeah. So, that's the thing. Again, when you're talking about inclusivity, even just that aspect where you don't want people to feel like, oh, don't ever make a movie again, don't ever try anything, because that's what the awful self-talk is, right? So you want, now it's like a therapy session for like rejected filmmakers. But it's like, no, you can't feel like garbage, you just have to try again. I mean, you can feel like garbage, but you have to try again. And I think that's what we support too. It's like, even if you didn't get in, maybe come to the festival and see what it's about, and see why maybe you may not have gotten in this year, but maybe take notes and see what the films are that we've programmed, so that it can help you maybe next year. So yeah, we're all about the filmmakers and making people feel welcome, and not, this, because the world is hard.
Yeah.
We don't want to add to that. So
and we know how, and we acknowledge how hard it is to make a film, whether it be a short or a feature length, how much work goes into it, how many people work on those projects. And so it's something, even if it needs a bit of work, it's something to always respect, is the amount of work that goes into making a film. And like I said, this year it was really hard, because we had some films that we all again scored very high, but we had to reject, and we debated over it, because it's like, can we try to fit these into our festival? And there were a few that we had to reject just because of length and time. And yeah, so but yeah.
I just want to add something.
Go ahead, Heidi.
Just on Carolyn's note about the lab, I think the other thing is, we don't want to sound like it's a rejection, but it's another, take a look to see where you can go next. But it just also reminds us of the need for funding and sort of training opportunities for these filmmakers. And a genre has a lot of fans, right? So filmmakers start off as fans of the genre itself. And I think what we're doing is very unique, and hopefully in the very near future, then the bigger funding bodies can kind of get on board and creating these opportunities, because I think we're actually you know, if we had more seed money, then we can also include more people, right, Carolyn? So I think there's room to grow for us, but there's also a chance for other funders to help filmmakers out.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Absolutely, 100%. We definitely need more funders. And I would say if you're a filmmaker and you're listening to this podcast or watching this YouTube and you want to get into film or you're interested into film, I honestly think coming to Bits, picking up a pass or like an industry pass, read as Heidy mentioned, go to the website and check it out and come and see what it's all about, because it is really a unique festival.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say too, I know with films that are rejected, Kelly will sometimes suggest other festivals that they can apply to where they might be a better fit. So there's always support, you know, on a variety of levels with our festival with films. So just thought that would be something important to note.
Do you guys have your slate picked? I haven't looked at your website this morning, so I don't know where you are in your selection process.
Yes, we had our final programming meeting was a week or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So yeah.
We're gonna announce on the 26th officially. So it's not on the website right now. But
so you definitely can't say which films you're liking because some of these people haven't
technically.
We love them all, Chris. We love them all.
I would say this episode drops on the 26th, so technically you're not, you know, doing anything bad if you were to say it now, right? We can have our earmuffs on if you want.
I can take my headphones off. So I realize we're getting close to the end of our time. Some of you have to go. I love we didn't even talk about a movie. I love that we just talked about you guys and your festival. But let's go down the line. It doesn't even have to be genre. Like, give us a couple of your favorite films, maybe why you like them. And then we'll let you guys get on your way. And let's I know that Heidy has probably spoken. Heidy and Kassy have spoken the least, so I'm going to try and let them talk a bit here. They're the Scots. They're the Scots on this show. Scott knows what it's like to be on a show with me. So
find us at Bits. Maybe we'll talk your ear off. I guess I can start since I already unmiked myself. Favorite films. I am an Exorcist fan, the original from the.
We don't talk about that movie. It's too scary.
I know you don't, and that's why I'm picking it. Just to difficult, but it is definitely one that I rewatch often. And but I'm also a sucker for documentaries, so I'm just gonna leave it there. I won't pick one documentary, but that's my next favorite type.
Have you seen the new Exorcist?
Nope.
Are you going to see it?
Yes.
Oh, you are going to see it. Okay. I wanted maybe some feedback from someone who actually likes that movie. And it's not that Scott and I don't like the E movie. It's very scary.
It's childhood trauma. Yeah. Like it's childhood trauma with me. I was way too young to watch that movie, and
probably a lot.
But I did watch the new one, and it was very bad. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah. I think I'll save it for something another time to watch.
Kassy?
Picking a favorite film is so hard for me. I guess I can just give you a few of my faves.
Yeah.
I love silly, wacky genre films. So Anna and the Apocalypse. I don't know if you've seen it. It's kind of a zombie horror Christmas musical. For some reason, I watched it at Toronto After Dark a few years ago, and I don't know, it just stuck with me. I'm obsessed with it. I have the vinyl. I have a signed poster that my friend gave me because he went to the screening at Fantasia. And I don't know, I just love it. It's just so silly, and it just plays with genre in such a cool way. And I also love Greener Grass, Jawbreakers. I love films that play with color and visuals in a really cool way. But yeah. And in terms of horror, I'm a big Scream fan. I love Wes Craven. I love meta stuff. Yeah.
What speaking of Scream, since I'm wearing my Scream t-shirt, the latest installment, give me your 15 seconds on that.
I like every Scream movie. I didn't like it as much as obviously the first ones, which are my favorite. Yeah, it was fine.
You guys are so nice. You are so nice. I'm glad you did not. Clearly, you did not listen to this podcast before coming on it, because I'm surprised you are willing to even talk to me, because you are much nicer people than I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, Melanie or Carolyn.
I was gonna say, I mean, it would be hard for me to choose a favorite film because, I watch so many of them. I have my whole like setup in my living room with my TV and my sound bar because I just love watching movies. One of my favorites, I have to say, and I've been watching the TV series recently, so this is why it's coming to mind, is What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh,
It's
yes.
one of the funniest. I love dark humor. I have a very dark sense of humor. So for me, I think that more than the slashers, it's the dark humor that I really appreciate and that I really am attracted to. So I'm Irish, so we've got a dark sense of humor. So What We Do in the Shadows has got to be one of my favorite. Like, I know I can just put it on and I'm gonna laugh every time I see it. Vladish laughed at poker, it's like when they go to the vampire ball at the local skating rink, it's just like there's like it doesn't stop. To pick I do love to laugh, so I think I am drawn to more the comedies, the comedy horrors, if anything. So that I would have to say is and I do like Heidi, I love documentaries as well. I love kind of exploring new things through documentaries. So yeah.
On just before I just want, so between the film and the TV show, which I believe is primarily shot in Toronto,
it is.
What's your I don't know, take or whatever?
I think Matt Berry was a brilliant choice in casting for that show. I don't think they could have chosen a better person. Just have you ever seen him on IT Crowd?
Yes, but I also watched a Toast
of London. Yeah.
Which is amazing.
So he was just a brilliant casting choice for that show. I love the show too. Oh my God, Colin Robinson.
Hello.
Excuse me. Yeah, Colin Robinson. He's like got to be one of my favorite characters as well. So yeah, I love the TV show, and I hope they do continue. I actually have a Matt Berry shirt that says, like, on the front it's like bat, and then on the back it says human form. So
yeah, it is a fantastic. Anybody who's listening to this, if you've not watched What We Do in the Shower, the TV show, you have to go watch it. It's so funny.
Nandor. My friends up at their cottage have this like painting, and it looks like something that Nandor would have been in, like, when he was like
when he was like still conquering villages and pillaging and stuff. So we did raping and pillaging.
We got a Nandor painting. And I'm like, that's awesome. So yeah, it's that's definitely going to be a cult classic, that TV show, for sure.
Carolyn?
Oh my God. Well, I'm wearing my
try to follow that, Carolyn.
Yeah, boom.
Lipstick Demon t-shirt. Hey. So I love the Insidious franchise. I love it because I don't know. I just think it's a great franchise. Fight me on that. But anyway, what else? I love so much that I like. There's a film I saw a few years ago. I think it played TIFF. It's called The Assistant. And it's just this really dark drama, and it was triggering because it was basically like I was an assistant for a while, and it was a horrible toxic workplace.
Are you talking about the one that's essentially set in it's Harvey Weinstein's office, but that's The Assistant?
I think so. Is that? Yeah, I think that's the one. And
it's beautifully shot too from a cinematic perspective.
It's a horror movie. I'm sorry, it's a horror movie. If you were an admin assistant, it's a horror movie. So that's one of my favorite. One that played bits of Black Mountain Side. Love that movie. It's kind of like The Thing, but a Canadian bent on it.
So it's like a politer thing. Like it says sorry before it turns into a monster and it consumes you.
Not really, but yeah, it's just like it's so good. It's really intense. What else? Oh yeah, The Exorcist was like a Catholic primer for me. So, how not to be a bad girl, I don't know. But like my parents were
But
super
Regan, that's the
Catholic.
thing. Regan's
Yeah.
not even bad. And she gets
I know.
possessed. This is the problem with this movie.
But that's the thing. That's the Catholic family. It's like you're not bad, but we're anticipating you're bad. So this is what could happen to you if you're bad. But yeah, so many films. What a couple times. Let's see. Fake Blood. Oh, The Conspiracy. I love mockumentaries, like horror mockumentaries. And The Conspiracy is a really good one. And Fake Blood is another good one. I think those guys are from out west. Forget, but anyway, yeah. Just I love horror. I will watch anything. I will watch Sharkmen on the Moon. I will watch like the worst CGI dinosaur movie.
I think sometimes those are the better ones though, because they're just
yeah. But again, they made a movie and I'm watching it. So thank you.
So does that mean you guys are all big Brett Kelly fans, or?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Jurassic Shark and
That's right. Oh my God. So much. It's just fun,
Yeah.
I mean, some movies you watch because there's like this incredible commentary and like I liked the Candyman remake. I liked it. I know it got completely obliterated by the critics and like you had to pick a side. I also like Mother, another movie you had to pick a side, but sorry, give me something weird. I'll dig it.
Yeah. I think it's fun to see people have fun with their filmmaking as well. Sometimes,
Yeah. Why so serious, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything else you guys? Obviously, we're going to put lots of stuff in our show notes, links to Blood in the Snow on the way out. I know Heidi's on her way out already. So, is there anything you guys want to say before we let you go?
Just come to the festival. Come to
I was about to say that.
Yeah. October 20th to 25th. Get your passes, get your tickets when they go on sale. So yeah, come check it out. We'd love to see you.
And Chris, stay up after 9 o'clock and we'll go for a beer.
You're asking this man a lot. It was funny. So just like 2 weeks ago, I messaged Scott at like 8:30. I was like primed. I'm going out. And hey, you want to get a drink? He's like, I just got some running around to do for an hour. I'll call you back. 9:30 calls me. I'm like, dude, like I'm already in my like track pants and stuff. And he's like, and he's got like a wife and kids. He's like, I don't want to say he guilted me, but he made me feel very, very bad as a bad friend. So I ended up like dragging myself out at like 9:30. It was a great night, but it was just like, I mean,
isn't it weird how that happens? So I find that happens for me, like at 8 o'clock, like I'll be like dressed. And then all of a sudden I'm magically in my pajamas. Like I don't even remember getting changed. Just all of a sudden it's like I black out. I'm like, oh, I'm in my pajamas and laying down on my couch. I had friends in town a couple weeks ago and we were gonna go to this club and then I thought we were going to go earlier and then they texted me at 11:30. They're like, we're here. And I'm like, I'm in bed. Sorry. I'm like, I mean, I can come, but I don't think I can be very entertaining because all I want to do is be in bed sleeping. So yeah, I don't know when that happened. Maybe it was the pandemic that all of a sudden I'm like, or maybe age going into my 50s. I'm just like, no, I did all my fun when I was younger. And now, if I'm going out, it's before 7.
Can we do this exciting thing, but can we do it at about 1:30 in the afternoon?
Matinees, exactly.
Senior
Even with
special.
shows now, I find I'm at shows and I'm like, oh, thank God they finish at 11. Myself, I'm like, it's got to be done by 11, man, because of the noise.
Oh yes, Toronto has those
bylaws.
noise.
I'm like,
Yes.
oh yeah, you got to be done by 11, so I get to go home. I don't know.
Well, thank you so much for coming. Like again, I think this is going to be one of our more interesting shows. It's always more interesting for people to come on this show because they're more interesting than I am. Scott can be interesting in small bites. So.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. And like I said, your enthusiasm and everything is super freaking infectious. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to this festival.
Yay,
And
thanks
I
for
really
saying it.
I really enjoyed the the best friend moment between Chris and Melanie there, watching that form over the what you do in shadows, like this is now time capsuled, right?
Well, and I'm like in the shadows. I don't know. I honestly like I have all the lights on and I don't know what's going on. So if we're talking about lighting in film, like I'm just not very
there's probably one or two gaffers that are going to be at this at Blood in the Snow this year. You may want to just have a quick conversation with them, or don't. Again, I think it works. Like, it definitely works. It's like, what are you doing in the shadows? All right, guys, enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
I will
Thank
see
you.
you in a month.
Yay! Awesome.
Yay!
Thanks so much.
Thank you for having us. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Bye.
Right.
And that is our wrap for the day. Please like and subscribe to this podcast. Tell your friends. If you want to get a hold of us, reach us at the www.howdyoulikethatmovie.com.
So yeah, there we go. So Scott, are you now going to Blood in the Snow Film Festival or what?
I don't know. It did, like, it made it seem super, like, the place to be, right? Like, it's in Toronto, right?
It is in Toronto.
It's an hour episode and we never actually talked about
and that's, you can tell that they're from Toronto because they don't even say that, blah 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 Toronto. They're just like, oh, it like Queen West, and they're just like throwing out landmarks, and I'm like, yeah, that's such a very Toronto thing. I'd like to say that the films are great. I didn't see any films because I was either drunk or hungover. So I'm hoping to see some films at the Blood in the Snow Film Festival this year. As I said at the beginning, the top of the show, though, if you are anywhere associated with filmmaking, wanting to be a filmmaker, already a filmmaker, the deadly exposure component of the festival is fantastic, and there will definitely be all the links to stuff in the show notes. So. Production by Rod Shaver, Vader Monkey Productions.